Hi everyone, Spider-Man 1991 here to talk about my comics for the week. Excuse me. All right, first of all, from Marvel, Secret Avengers number 12, with John Steele captured. John Steele briefly broke his sort of comatose state, and is starting to hold one of Hank McCoy's assistants hostage, but fortunately, Hank is able to distract him, giving Steve Rogers enough time to knock him out. And with the help of the Prince of Orphans, they're able to sedate Steele and get him hooked back up to figure out what happened to him and why he was joining the Shadow Council. So with Steve Rogers and John Steele both hooked up, back to their memory in World War II, they both got separated. They need to figure out what happened to Steele. But for Captain America, though, he briefly met the Prince of Orphans, and then all of a sudden, they get attacked by a giant millipede bug worm thing. And they're dealing with that while Steele uncovers a ritual with the Shadow Council. And once that happens, Steele pretty much charges in, but unfortunately, he gets captured, and the Shadow Council and Steve Rogers and Captain America and Prince of Orphans are still dealing with the giant bug situation. And Steel, kidnapped by the Shadow Council, they open a rift in time and space, and after that, that's what helps them get control of Steel. And once Cap and the Prince of Orphans defeat the worm, they go back and see the entire castle was in ruins, and they never found what happened to Steel. And pretty much Steele reveals to Steve that the councils started a revolution a long time ago, and now they're pretty much back and trying to control the whole world. And then Steve pretty much makes him an offer to get back at the Shadow Council for stealing half of his life. So yeah. Okay. Secret Avengers number 12. This is Ed Brubaker's last issue on this title, because it's now going into Fear and next issue, it's going to go into Fear itself. So, yeah. I liked it. I liked seeing Steve Rogers back in World War II, and granted, he was pretty much absent for most of his... He was dealing with the giant bug, while Steel pretty much got hypnotized into... or brainwashed by the Shadow Council. Not really an explanation beyond the whole rift in time and space thing, but I thought this was okay. I mean, it's not a bad final issue. I think Brubaker's going to return to it after Fear itself, but who knows. And speaking of Secret Avengers, here's the .1 issue. Secret Event number 12.1 to be exact. Okay. This is a standalone story. It does not tie into anything. It doesn't tie into the Fear Itself story. It doesn't tie into the Shadow Council story. It's just pretty much a one-shot story featuring the team of Secret Avengers. If you haven't seen this story, if you haven't picked up this story at all, and you're curious as to what the Secret Avengers does, then I would recommend this one-shot for you. But other than that, if you've been reading the series since the first issue, or you read all 12 issues at this point, then I would say skip it. I would just say pass on it. And speaking of Steve Rogers and Ed Brubaker, Captain America. Alright, this issue is the second part of the story after the trial, after Bucky Barnes' trial. Bucky was tried by the American government. He got off, but then the Russians showed up and they arrested him for crimes against the state. And now Bucky is in a Russian prison, and he's being forced into cage matches. And right here, he's fighting a bear, which he's able to beat. Yeah, he's able to beat a bear. He's awesome. And while Bucky's in prison, his internal monologue sort of focuses about how every single prisoner pretty much glares at him, and there's pretty much a bunch of people like ex-KGB allies and stuff, and he runs into some trouble with some prison gangs who know that he was the Winter Soldier. Then then he meets another. Then he meets kind of an ally who's willing to help him survive the prison. Willing to help him survive the prison, and he shows him to Bucky's next cage match opponent, who is a former Titanium Man. For those not familiar, Titanium Man is pretty much an Iron Man foe, and there have been many people who wear the armor. But an ex-Titanium Man is pretty much Bucky's next opponent, and if he beats Bucky, he gets his freedom if he kills him in the match. But Bucky, I'm pretty sure if he wins, nothing really big happens to him except that he survives. So, yeah. And Bucky's story ends off here. Meanwhile, we have another story featuring Black Widow and Sharon Carter, pretty much looking into the crime that apparently Bucky was arrested for, with the Winter Soldier going rogue and killing two people. So they think it's rather suspicious, and Widow and Sharon Carter are doing some digging, and they learn that apparently the victims of the shooting had cover identities, and that they worked in something called the Red Room program, and their story gets left off when soldiers find them snooping around. And the real reason I started picking up Captain America again is because of this co-feature featuring Steve Rogers. Steve's pretty much still in debate with himself about whether or not he should pick up the shield again. And Jarvis tells him that he should really consider it, and reminds him that he has an appointment with Henry Peter Grinch, who pretty much helped hand Bucky over the Russians. And while Steve's in a meeting, Grinch gets attacked by some robotic assassin. But here's the interesting thing. The robot spoke Russian. So after it gets away, Steve decides to question Grinch about what the hell's going on. Okay, Captain America. I like how all three co-features are sort of intertwined into what's going on with Bucky, and they're trying to get Bucky out. And as far as this series would go, if you want to pick up Captain America, if you want to pick up something with Steve Rogers in it, then I would say get this. Because, frankly, Secret Avengers Fear Itself might focus more on Valkyrie, since she's an Asgardian, and Fear Itself does seem to be more Asgardian related. So, yeah. Okay, what else do I have to say? Yeah. With the Captain America movie coming out, I wouldn't say read this series thinking that this will help you understand the movie more. No, you'd have to go back and read some old Captain America stories. And I did put a reading list for movies coming out this summer on my blog. I should post the link in the description of this video, so check that out if you can. But I would say Captain America is pretty awesome. Alright, now for a Marvel comic that I'm really enjoying, Amazing Spider-Man 659. The Future Foundation returns to the Marvel main home dimension, and they arrive in the Caribbean. And while Sue's communicating with her daughter Valerie, their transmission gets cut off, and they remain on the beat on an island which is close to where Reed to an old to one of the first Fantastic Four adventure with Doctor Doom, where Johnny, Ben, and Reed were sent back in time to find the treasure of Blackbeard, and they pretty much left the jewels of Blackbeard back in time. And the Future Foundation in the present has apparently landed to the location where they left the jewels. And so while they're there, the Future Foundation hears about disappearance of people on island, so they go and decide to check it out. Meanwhile, back in New York, Carla Cooper is pretty much very frustrated over Peter because there's been so many people who've led double lives in her life. There was Vin Gonzalez, Lily Holster, who everyone should know as Menace and Harry Osborn's baby mama, and Carly's own father, who faked his own death to get rid of his mob ties. And now she's really worried about Peter because she thinks that his secret will be really bad as all the others. But back in the Caribbean, the Future Foundation goes to the island, and Spider-Man points out to the group that he lost his Spidey sense recently. Reed says that maybe they could figure out a technological replacement, but as they do that, Spidey activates a hidden switch, which unleashes zombie pirates! Of course, Peter's pretty happy because he never gets to do this kind of stuff. And also at the Baxter building, the kids are pretty much figuring out a way to get to the adults and help them with their problem. And they uncover the Future Foundation uncovers a portal that apparently is being used by a deep sea diver to bring Blackbeard. And also in the original first Doctor Doom adventure, Ben dressed up like Blackbeard. Well, when Ben was in disguise, he became Blackbeard, so that's how the little legend came from. And Spidey notices some pirate guard, and he has Ben dress up as Blackbeard again to try to confuse them. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. And the kids show up, but when the adults try to warn them about the zombie pirates and weird lights, I believe Alex Power points out to them it sounds a little like Scooby-Doo. So then the adults are just like, ugh, like hit themselves on the head at how stupid they could be. And it's revealed that this whole scheme was orchestrated by none other than Spidey's own little anti-fan club, the Sinister Six. Oh, yeah. Nice little lead off into what's going to happen next. What could happen next issue. Oh, and also for the Carly Cooper thing, this has been a focus of a lot of people who've read this, but spoiler alert, Carly in her drunk night with her friends pretty much decides to get back at Peter by getting a Norman Osborn goblin tattoo. Yeah, that is just really, really bad. It is going to really tick off Peter. I mean, he is just going to... hey, he might even just grab her, take her to the Fantastic Four, just ask Mr. Fantastic, hey, dude, take this tattoo off my girlfriend. It's very disgusting. But yeah, this is definitely going to have some repercussions on their whole relationship. And also, and one more little feature here. We get a nice little teaser to Spider Island, which is the Jackal releasing his genetically altered bugs onto the city. Okay, that's all for Amazing Spider-Man 659. I cannot wait to see the Future Foundation with Spider-Man take on the Sinister Six. That is going to be epic. But this issue was amazing, and I cannot wait for the next one. I really love this series, and I really like Dan Slott on it. Oh, and speaking of the Future Foundation, their second issue came out today. It opens up where the last issue went off with Doom joining the Future Foundation. Let's see here. How did Ben... And first page is a shot of Ben Grimm PO'd. And while Reed tries to get Ben to calm down, Dr. Doom... Okay, this really shows a lot for Doom's character, but he takes a cheap shot at Ben by pretty much getting him to... asking him if it's true that Johnny sacrificed his life all while Ben cuddled with children. While Ben pretty much was surrounded by crying children and he was weeping as well. That was a cheap shot with Doom, which really ticks Ben off. And again, Sue, she's not really as ticked off. Well, okay, yeah, she is about as pissed off as much as Ben, because right after Ben leaves with Dragon Man to go to a bar so he could have a drink and blow off some steam, Sue pretty much threatens Doom that if he does anything wrong, she'll pretty much make him reduce his brain power to that of a drooling house pet. And Spider-Man makes a funny little comment here saying, I guess someone's sleeping on the couch tonight. And everyone just stares at him. He's like, should I stay or go? And Reed has Spider-Man come with him. So Reed takes Spider-Man, his father Nathaniel, Valerie, Doom, and to meet with the other kids in what they call the Room, which is this huge sort of amphitheater. And they pretty much now need to figure out a way to help Doom sort of get back to his former intelligence, because Doom has suffered brain damage from what was it? I think it was a Hulk, one of the Hulk storylines of the past few years. Doom has suffered a lot of brain damage, and it's pretty much reduced his intelligence and has affected his ability to use magic. Yeah, Doom is also on top of being, well, not really magic so much as just dark arts. And Valerie gets the idea that they could probably restore Doom's intelligence by using a backup. And of course they need to figure out where that backup is. And Doom knows what the backup is, which is his heir, Christoph, who is right here. Christoph Bernard was an orphan in Latveria who Doom pretty much raised as his heir and his own son. And he also uploaded his own mind into Christoph so that he would pretty much be the perfect heir to take over. So Spider-Man, Nathaniel, Reed, and Valerie help Doom sort of restore his mind with the backup information on Christoph. And interesting enough, though, we see here with Reed, when he's faced with Doom's brain, he has a transfer or purge with the information. So he's pretty much... And right here we sort of get like a little moment where Reed has a choice where he could get rid of Doom forever and leave him like that, but Reed goes ahead and transfers the information, and all of a sudden, Doom's back to his original power state. And now Valerie pretty much calls in her half of the deal she made with Doom, which was that she would find a way to restore him, but now Doom has to help her defeat Reed Richards. Of course, I'm just like, when I first read this, I'm like, say what? Then I got the teaser for the next issue, which is the return of the Council of Reeds from when Hickman started his run on Fantastic Four, which was the huge councils of Reed that pretty much gave up everything for unbelievable power and to solve everything. So that might be what Valerie's referring to. She needs Doom to help her figure out a way to stop the Council of Reeds for whatever they might do. But, yeah. Alright, Future Foundation, again, amazing. I love this series. It was a great companion to read after Amazing Spider-Man. Although, granted, the two storylines don't really lead into each other, it's still pretty amazing. Still pretty amazing, though. But if I had to choose one, if I could only read one, I would probably go with Amazing Spider-Man. But if you can't get both, get both. They're both amazing and awesome. Alright, now for DC. And I'm going to kick this off with one of the big things I was waiting for, which is one of the most expensive comics I bought this week. For $4.99, the conclusion to Brightest Day, number 24. And by the unwritten laws of the internet, I am required to say, spoiler alert. For this entire review of Brightest Day number 24, there will be spoilers, so just go ahead and, if you don't want to hear it, just fast forward right now. Alright, from last issue, Swamp Thing has returned. But the entity reveals to Deadman, Hawk, and Dove that it needed Alec Holland to pretty much take the Swamp Thing and the powers of Swamp Thing again. Because when Alec Holland died, Swamp Thing thought it was Alec Holland because it was clinging to the last remaining consciousness of Alec Holland's moments. But after Blackest Night, Swamp Thing started to cling to the remaining essence of Necron, so that's why we get the whole Blackest Night version of Swamp Thing. And now the entity wants to pretty much bring Alec Holland back so that Swamp Thing can truly become Alec Holland, so that he can merge them both into one being. And of course, while they're doing this, Captain Boomerang throws a boomerang, finally does his task, which is to throw the boomerang at Dove. But Hawk is unable to stop it, so instead, Deadman takes the shot, and, well, he's dead. Boston Brand is dead again. And apparently with since Boston Brand is dead, his white ring then goes to Alec Holland and restores him to life again. And once Alec Holland is restored to life, the Swamp Thing entity merges with him again, and he becomes the real Swamp Thing right here. And fortunately, real Swamp Thing is able to defeat Black Lantern, Necron, Swamp Thing, and win. And restored pretty much life to the planet. And Boston Brand is once again a ghost, but this time Dove is able to see him, but see him a little bit briefly. And once Swamp Thing is finished, he did merge with the elemental forms of the other heroes, and he releases them. But Hawkgirl is not among them, which, well, takes off Hawkman. And now life has been restored to the planet. Yay. And now Swamp Thing leaves saying that he has work to do, and the White Lantern says that the only person to fail their task is Hawk, and that his life is still under the influence of war. Hey, he's the embodiment of chaos. Naturally, he's going to be affected by war. And so the entity says his work is done and leaves. Deadman's Boston Brand is back to being a ghost, and everyone's back alive except for Shayera. And we get a little teaser here with Aquaman when he's talking to Mera, and he says he's contacted the Titans to help Jackson control his powers. Aquaman then notices the weapons the Zebul was outfitted with, and he says he recognizes the technology as Atlantean. That might be a tease for the Aquaman series that Jeff Johns is going to come out with later in the year. And then John Jones shows up to the daughter of the scientist who brought him to Earth. He helps pretty much cure a brain tumor for her, and she pretty much apologizes, saying that she's sorry her father and she stole his life, but he says they didn't steal it, he gave him one. Hawkman, he's angry because because Shayera's not back. And Ronnie and Jason Rush are still sort of going through Professor Stein's things, and then Jason shows Ronnie that apparently the professor had a countdown to the Matrix when the Firestorm Matrix was damaged when it got blasted by the anti-monitor, and now there's a countdown to when they're going to detonate. And in the final pages, Swamp Thing attacks a bunch of a boardroom of executives who are discussing how they're supposed to deal with an oil spill that happened. Swamp Thing pretty much kills them out of retaliation for the Earth. And in the last page, we see Detective John Constantine, who was apparently a sort of another featured character during the Swamp Thing series. Okay. I was not really impressed with the ending to Brightest Day. I mean, when the series first came out, I was really excited for it, but now it's just the Swamp Thing was something I didn't see coming, and as far as this ending is concerned, unless the only way you could care about this is if you were a fan of Swamp Thing. All right, that's it. If you're not a Swamp Thing fan, then I would say you probably wouldn't care about it. But if you are a fan of Swamp Thing, then you should be happy. Alright, now for part 6 of The War of the Green Lanterns, taking place in Green Lantern Emerald Warriors number 9. Earth's 4 lanterns are able to get out of the Green Lantern, get underground and escape the fire of the Green Lanterns. And then they all have an argument about what to do next. John's pretty much pushing that they should take out Mogo, but Hal says they should focus on the central power battery. And when Cal is able to use his power to calm them down, a vote of 3-1 is for the central power battery. So the Lanterns all go off on a quest to find the central power battery and get Parallax out. And they arrive on the Guardian's sort of secret underground lab, with them developing weapons to sort of keep order in the universe. John notices some guns which he thinks might come in handy, and they also find Corona's power gauntlet, which worked like a Green Lantern ring, which was seen back in the Green Lantern series. But then while they're talking, all of a sudden they get attacked by some guard, and while they're trying to fight, while John, Guy, and Hal are trying to fight back, Kyle gets them to calm down, saying that they should probably just show the guard that they have no fear and that they're apparently Green Lanterns. So they're able to get the guard to stop attacking them, and he pretty much hands over Corona's gauntlet to them, hoping that they could use it. And they might, since it works like a Green Lantern ring, but it's not connected to the power battery. But while they're in there, they notice that Mogo has released a bunch of rings into each sector of space, trying to figure out new recruits for the Green Lantern Corps and also new victims for Corona. And this pretty much makes Kyle join John's argument. So, since the votes are now split, John and Kyle go off to deal with Mogo, while Hal and Guy head over to the Central Power Battery. But once they get there and they try to break through, they get attacked by the entity-possessed Guardians. Okay, looking forward to the next part of this, so I can see what happened to the Guardians now that they've been possessed by the entities. And it is interesting to see like all the stuff the Guardians have been up to with trying to keep order in the universe and stuff. This isn't a bad part to it. You kind of see see the tension among the four Green Lanterns. I mean, you probably assume that they all work fine together, but you actually do see the tension in this. And it kind of splits them up, so now you have two stories going on with two main goals: getting Parallax out of the battery and taking care of Mogo, or who I like to call now as Corona's Death Star. Yeah. Oh, didn't get my final approval. Green Lantern, unless you check it out if you're reading War of the Green Lanterns. All right, now for Batman Detective Comics. A case for Batman begins with a killer whale found in the lobby of a bank. So Gordon is able to bring the whale to the crime lab in Wayne Industries, which Dick Grayson is running, and Gordon is pretty much talking to Dick, and Dick thinks that whoever is head of the bank probably has a lot of egg on their face, and Gordon points out that the head of the bank is apparently Sonia Branch, who is the daughter of Tony Zuko, the man who killed who killed Dick's parents. And while Dick's pretty much checking the whale for clues and stuff, Gordon briefly mentions his son James, and he asks Dick to go and meet him so that he can pretty much figure out whether or not James is normal or something, because Gordon feels a little clouded on this decision. But while they're talking, a dead body slips out of the whale, and Batman and Dick suits up, goes off to meet Sonia Branch. The victim of the whale was her personal assistant and best friend. So Dick wants to see if she had anything behind this, but apparently she's saying that she has no idea what's happening and stuff. And Batman leaves. Then she makes a call to someone saying that she's had enough and that she doesn't want anyone else hurt. And there's a little bat tracer on the window, and Batman is able to trace the number and figure out that it's leading to a man named Bixby Rhodes, who runs a car dealership and is becoming one of the street's biggest city's premier gun smugglers. Of course, while this is happening, Batman gets attacked. He winds up in a room with a bunch of other cars, but unfortunately, they seal him in and start the car crusher. Wow. Okay, Detective Comics. It was okay. I am a little curious to see how Tony Zuko's daughter fits into this, as well as the whale. I really want to know what the hell was up with the whale in this. Plus, again, the whole thing about Gordon's son is also intriguing with what Scott Snyder, the writer of this book, has to offer. If you like Batman as sort of a detective, then I would pick this up. Now for another favorite comic of mine, The Flash, number 11, the part to Flashpoint. While working on the case, Barry's friend Patty sort of deals with the little boy they found at the scene of the most recent death, and Barry and Hot Pursuit's still looking for that time anomaly that's supposed to change history. And Barry is still trying to figure out how the murders could happen, and he gets a text from Iris saying that she needs him home. And Barry, being the fastest man alive, gets there in no time. And it's where apparently Iris has staged an intervention. She says that apparently Bart told her that he didn't want to come to the picnic because Bart was there. And of course, Barry tells him that that's not true, and Iris kind of wants to get to the bottom of why he hasn't been around lately. And of course, Jay and Wally both remind him, and Jay remind him about who he is and what he needs to them. Jay reminds him that when Barry got his powers, Jay wasn't running alone anymore, and that Barry was once a man who was anchored by the past, now has something to run to instead of something to run from. And then Wally pretty much tells Barry that he thought the Flash was his greatest role model, but then he met Barry Allen, and he always hoped that instead of Barry Allen being the Flash, that the Flash was really Barry Allen. And that the Flash taught Wally how every second was precious. And when we get to Bart's turn, he says he has nothing to say, and Bart's pretty much angry that Barry's supposed to be the Flash, someone he's supposed to learn from and look up to, but apparently Barry just can't waste his time. And Barry goes after him, but while Bart as Kid Flash is running, he gets knocked off the road by Hot Pursuit. And Hot Pursuit apparently believes that Bart Allen is the timeline, since Bart was born in the future, now he's living thousands of years before his birth. And of course Barry shows up and tries to save his grandson. But unfortunately, Hot Pursuit gets the chance, and he's able to send Bart back to the future. But while this is happening, something goes wrong apparently. And the little boy that they met is revealed to be none other than Professor Zoom. And from what it implies, he's behind the murders. Didn't see that one coming. That was sarcasm, by the way. Alright, Road to Flashpoint. The next issue will be the final part of this Road to Flashpoint thing. I am enjoying The Flash. This has been great. I love Jeff Johns writing Barry Allen. He's making me love the character, and especially now since we sort of hear about what kind of guy Barry used to be and how he's not really that guy anymore since his return. And again, the whole relationship between Barry and Bart is stressed because Barry was dead before Bart was born, and Bart never got to know him, and Barry's supposed to be the inspiration for Bart. He's supposed to be his role model and stuff, so maybe that will be resolved, maybe not. But this is still an awesome series, and I would really recommend getting it. Okay, and now for Action Comics number 900. This is amazing. Superman is back in action. This is something I've been waiting for. While the reason Superman returns to Metropolis is because of Doomsday. For most of this issue's story, the Doomsday thing's pretty much dealt by his kidnapped victims: Superboy, Supergirl, the Eradicator, Steel, and Cyborg Superman. While they're dealing with Doomsday, Superman has to deal with an omnipotent Luthor, who, if you want to know how he got his powers, check out the past Action Comics from the past year. So Luthor pretty much has omnipotent powers, and this is kind of reminding me of a season finale of Justice League Unlimited where Luthor merged with Brainiac. So that's kind of the image I had in my head. And Luthor pretty much is pretty much taunting Superman, and he pretty much wants Superman to feel the human emotion of loss. So he takes Superman back through time to see his death, his escape from Krypton, and the moment Chris gave up his life to seal the Phantom Zone, and the destruction of New Krypton. And then Superman pretty much gets Luthor pretty much tells Luthor, "Do you really want to see what loss means to me? Well, take a look at my head." And Superman takes him to the moment that Jonathan Kent died. And at this point, Luthor realizes that Superman is Clark Kent. And this really makes Luthor furious because not only does Superman have amazing powers, but as Clark Kent, he had good parents and everything. So Luthor's pretty furious about this, and he demands that Superman doesn't deserve to be Clark Kent. He doesn't deserve any of this, and he's trying to make Superman break, which he's unable to do. And apparently, being that Luthor is merged with the Phantom Zone child, I'm not sure if they mean Chris or not. Again, I haven't been reading Action from the Action Comics for the past year. that other being is sort of fighting Luthor's mind, and the only way he can keep his powers is if he pretty much does his best to sort of... Okay, back to the Luthor story. The only way Luthor can keep his powers is if he tries to get rid of all negative emotions. So Luthor calms himself, and the entire universe changes. There's no negative emotions. Everyone's just blissful. And Luthor realizes he can do anything now, and with this state. And Superman and the robot Lois pretty much... the robot Lois is controlled by Mr. Mind right now. And they pretty much tell Luthor that he can keep the power, but he has to change. He can no longer swear vengeance on Superman. That doesn't go for Luthor. Luthor does not want to change, and he attacks Superman. But the more angry Luthor gets, the more power he loses. So Superman is pretty much able to taunt him, and take him out. So now Luthor no longer has his powers, but then all of a sudden he fades from existence, and all the black spheres start to fade as well, except for one. And the robot Lois goes away. Well, with the Luthor situation taken care of, Superman flies near where the debris of New Krypton, and is able to find Doomsday's ship. And when Superman arrives, he meets up with his friends and the Cyborg, and the Cyborg shows him what he's discovered, which is Doomsday's body held up and attached to some huge machine. And Superman pretty much thinks that this is Luthor's trap, and he obviously had access to Doomsday's body when he was working for General Lane. But as they're talking, they discovered that there's 4 Doomsdays. So now it's the reign of the Doomsdays. Each one from the versions that took down the heroes, which would be the version that Steel fought, the Cyborg Doomsday, and the tactile telekinesis Doomsday. And they did fight the Eradicator of Doomsday a few pages ago, but there is apparently 4 Doomsdays now. That is not good at all. And for the rest of the issue, though, it's just a bunch of small 2 or 3 page stories written by a couple of well-known Superman writers, like Paul Dini, Jeff Johns, and Richard Donner. Action Comics number 900 was amazing. It's a great issue. If you love Superman, then get it. He is awesome. I love Superman, and this was definitely my favorite comic of the week. No question about it. This, as much as I loved Amazing Spider-Man, my vote for comic of the week has to go with this, and I gotta get back for this just to keep it safe. Okay, that's it for the comics. Recap: Action Comics number 900, awesome comic of the week. Flash number 11, if you plan on getting Flashpoint, if you want to know more about if you're enjoying the Flash, then I would say get this. This is awesome. Detective Comics, if you like Batman being a detective, get it. Green Lantern Emerald Warriors, get it if you're number 9. Get it if you're reading War of the Green Lanterns. Brightest Day, pretty much it's only for pretty much the only people who may enjoy this are fans of Swamp Thing. Future Foundation number 2, great. It's very good. If you're a Doctor Doom fan or a Reed Richards fan, then get this. Amazing Spider-Man 659. This is definitely my favorite Marvel comic. Pick it up. It's really awesome. Dan Slott is just making Amazing Spider-Man amazing. Captain America number 617. I would say pick it up if you're a fan of Steve Rogers or Bucky's Captain America. If you're a fan of either character or both, pick it up. It's really good. Secret Avengers 12.1. If you have not been reading this series, then get this. If you have, then skip it. Secret Avengers number 12. Again, if you like Ed Brubaker writing Steve Rogers, then pick this up. And that's all. And again, my comic for the week is Action Comics number 900. Great to have Superman back, and I can't wait to read the rest of the Reign of the Doomsdays. Okay, and that's all I have to say. Spider-Man 1991 saying, see you later.